Welcome
To me, you, or the audience?
to everybody, man.
Welcome. Should we say welcome back, maybe?
That might be appropriate. It's been a while, hasn't it?
I feel out of practice, Craig. It's good to be back hanging out with you, man.
Yeah, man. Same here. Same here. It has been a while since we've been in the studio, but here we are.
Go ahead and say welcome again
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
to another edition of Through a Therapist's Eyes, the podcast. See how I did that?
It was good.
That was not bad. Craig Graves and Chris Gazdick is here with you, where we invite you to see the world through the lens of a real mental health and substance abuse therapist with the goal to create emotional growth. And we are looking for feedback and discussion and a lot of other things on throughatherapist'seyes.com. Listen, I'm going to go ahead and highlight your job, Craig. I'm learning about podcasts, and I'm listening to Steelers podcast, and they do a good job of helping their audience really learn and know and understand that your participation is really important for us to grow, right? Like, there's a little like button that they really need to press. There's comments out there, when you're on a site, either, I guess is that mostly our website, or where can they leave comments out, Craig? Where is that to do? I've seen several, but
You could leave comments on the website because, we have individual entries for each show. So you could leave comments there. You could leave comments on, we normally post a video. We have been behind, but we normally post videos and announcements on the Facebook page that shows out.
So that helps get
So
traffic and stuff.
You
to
could
Facebook,
post, you could post a
Instagram.
question or a comment on a Facebook post.
I've seen things
A
online.
couple different ways to do it.
Well, I've seen things online like Spotify or iTunes. I don't use the Apple podcast page, but that's where you do the likes, right? Where do you do the comments other than?
Well, you can leave. Normally, a comment is on the blog or the website or one of our social media pages. I mean, what you're seeing, I would assume, on Spotify is perhaps reviews.
Reviews, yes.
People who leave comments on the reviews on. I don't know much about Spotify, but that's how it works on iTunes.
And YouTube is big for that, I know, but YouTube is super big for that. Here's my point, guys. We've got listeners across the nation and literally across the world, but we're wanting to grow, and I think we'll probably be targeting in this next year, and we really do. We need your help. If you have a comment and you have a like that you put on an individual show, you got to understand the power of the internet that really helps this stuff grow. And so I'm kind of calling out a little bit to our audience to help us get the word out in a real way. Likes and comments and posts and post responses, all of those things really help get traffic so that we can be differentialized from, is that a word? Differentialized?
Differentiated.
Thank you.
Better word.
I knew it didn't sound right. From other shows that are covering this topic, because there are some out there now. So help us out, please. This is the human emotional experience, Craig. Let's figure this thing out together, huh?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Listen, man, we got a sponsoring agency of Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates. They've been busy, hard at work, transferring every paperclip, couch, chair, computer, piece of paper, file after file after file has been relocated. Do you know the new address?
I don't know the new address.
Would you like to know?
We need to make sure that's updated somewhere.
Yeah, I need an internet guy to get to the website. You know anybody that might be able to update the website?
I don't know. Those guys don't like to work for free either. So maybe,
buddy, man.
Yeah, we'll get you fixed up. Tell us about having to move, dude. What happened?
Man, we went from Belmont to a place called Mount Holly. It's just down the road. It really is an awesome, convenient location at 547 Suite A, Highland Street, Mount Holly, North Carolina, 28120. I have already committed this to memory, man. My tacit learning has just jumped. Isn't that awesome?
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
So, we've been really busy moving, and that's been absolutely
So you kind of got shocked about your lease not being renewed and had to scramble, and you've got a 4 or 5 person office.
Yeah.
So you had to find a new spot and get everything moved and notify all your clients in a short time, right? Is that what happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, in a nutshell, we kind of got popped between the eyes a little bit with that one, but we're recovering, and we've had great feedback. We've been in a new place for, I guess tomorrow will be 2 weeks in practice, so it's working out, man. We even got some pictures on the wall and boxes unpacked and everything moving along.
Well, good, that helps. It's a nice little office too. I happened to stop in one night. I was over that way, and I think it worked out a lot better than you anticipated. I'm assuming, right?
I think it did. And what's funny, Craig? I mean, I don't mind self-disclosing a lot of times when it's for the benefit of the people I'm working with. That's my standard. 100% of the time is my hopeful goal as my standard. And boy, I've been using my emotion management skills. I'll tell you that. It was funny because I think I told you when you stopped in, because you were out that weekend. I would like to point out that Craig didn't move a couch.
Yeah, I was away. I was not here.
Oh man, I can't have that confirmed. Now you showed me a picture, but that could have been, I don't know, what was that picture of?
The baseball field, bro.
Was it?
So watching my kid play baseball or helping you move is an easy decision. I'll tell you that right now.
That's fine. I accept that. Now I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, man. I mean, it was funny because, I mean, you know how you go through something and it's like it really is overwhelming. Anybody who's moved knows that it's difficult, but you throw a bunch of business aspects on top of that. I'm still messing around with my freaking phone address and the good fine people at a company that will go unnamed, but for now. But it was just completely worn out, and how nothing seems familiar and whatever. And you showed up that day, man. I was like, dude, it's so cool to see like a familiar thing. That's awesome. So that was thanks for stopping by. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So stuck spots is our topic today. Let's launch into that. And I'll tell you, it's funny because I'm going to confess that a lot of the times, man, I really do kind of preparing for the shows, and I'm kind of looking around on the internet and, looking around in my office at the handouts and, some books and stuff that I've got. And this one was kind of different. I kind of warned you, several, heck, sounds like several months ago now, but at least I've been starting to talk recently, like we're building on, deeper levels of concepts. And this is one where honestly, our show notes are going to suck. I got nothing for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't go to the website for this show notes because there's not going to be really anything there. Does that sound bad? Is that bad?
I mean, it is what it is. Reality.
It is because it all comes from my head.
Okay.
This is really just like, I brainstormed this because I thought about this topic. And honestly, one of the reasons why I chose it is because we have been so busy. And I've been pulling my own emotion management out, which in part is simplify. Prioritize one little step at a time. And I knew this show prep would be very easy for me. That's the reason why I chose the topic, to be honest with you.
Okay. Because
stuck spots is something I hear all the time. And I just really kind of brainstormed, and I came through all of these things. It was really kind of cool to do this prep because it's really just fresh from my brain. I mean, this is really truly through my eyes. It's just my experience and what I see with people. And it's a common thing that people really have happen. I mean, people feel flat stuck out there so many times and in so many ways with so many topics.
Okay.
What do you take from the topic stuck spots? What comes off of your brain and people getting stuck?
I think people get stuck in ruts, if you will, in life. I talk to a lot of people who are unhappy in a job or unhappy with their finances or unhappy with some kind of current situation, and instead of doing something about it, they just tend to complain or I think we get comfortable in misery.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think sometimes people don't know how to make a move. I mean, a lot of folks don't know how to really go through a job search process, and it seems easy. You post a bunch of resumes on the internet, but there's thousands of people posting for the same jobs, and a lot of those jobs are already taken. So when nothing happens, people get frustrated and they just, there's nothing for me out there, and they go back to their spot, of being miserable and or unhappy. I teach that Dave Ramsey class, and we're on week. We'll be doing
through that.
We're doing week 8 as of this recording.
Isn't it 12? 8 of 12?
8 and 9.
Oh, really?
So I've only got 2 more left. And people just, the Dave Ramsey thing, I like to say it's a program about hope, because people are hopeless when it comes to finances. And this gives them a plan they can work to move forward and see some kind of good results. And if you don't have a plan or know how to create a plan, then you're just stuck in a rut.
Hey, Mr. Instructor, reach out to those folks, get him on the show. Because I love his material. He really does a good job of mixing in the emotion of money, as you're talking about right there. Absolutely.
That might be a good idea. Maybe I'll run that by the class and see if anybody be willing to come on.
Work it out, because what my brain was doing as you were talking there, you're exactly right. I think you and I as well in our mastermind group had checked out maybe it wasn't through that. I forget where it was. Anyway, a TED Talks on the guy who talks about being in a comfort zone and then, moving up out of your comfort zone and then being up even further into a state of chaos, which we don't want, but we want to push ourselves directly out of our comfort zone to get into an uncomfortable zone, to develop new skills, new abilities, new knowledge. And that oftentimes is very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that probably was a TED Talk. That's the philosophy that we follow in Unbeatable Mind.
Yep.
That's the philosophy that Spartan Race kind of employs. We get comfortable, and I don't think that if we can't be comfortable being uncomfortable,
that's the phrase.
That's where we got to go. And sometimes you have to create those situations in order to build emotional resiliency and mental resiliency, if you will. So when the real thing comes along, you're prepared for it.
Yeah, and sometimes that happens to you, and sometimes you choose that. Again, it takes us into a different direction right now, but that's fine, because you just said choose to be uncomfortable, which always, you hear people talk about that a little bit. It sounds crazy, but if you want to get unstuck, I mean, comfort kind of does equal stuck, doesn't it? You don't think of it that way.
Comfort equals stuck, and I think we get comfortable in being miserable. I think I know people whose identity is miserable. I have a family member, man, and she'll tell you in a heartbeat how sick she is. And it's the craziest thing I've ever heard. So this person wants to be sick. And I think that's her identity. How you doing? You better get ready for a long talk if you ask her that question.
Yeah. And I've heard that before, Craig, and I think that I struggle with that comment a little bit, just because I don't think people want to be stuck or want to be unhappy. They may act like it. And part of what I want to talk about here, and I think that's the part, item 4 there on your list, right? I really want to spend some time on, how do you get unstuck? Because I think people don't know that they're really actually empowered to get out of that.
They don't, and I think that people will justify staying where they are.
Yes.
In order not to have to get out of their comfort zone.
Which makes it sound like they want to be there. They don't really want to be there. Who wants to be sick or unhappy? But I've tried everything, there's a key word, right, that I know to do.
Yeah, and I don't think, let me back up. I don't think people want to be miserable, but I just don't think they know how to get out of the situation that they're in.
Exactly.
I hear it a lot in the corporate world. People say, oh, I've got X number of years before I can retire. And, oh man, it's blah, blah, how bad it is. Well, do something about it. Well, I've only got 10 years before I get a retirement check,
Yeah, Dan Miller talks a lot about that, doesn't he?
Yeah. And so, and people are empowered. I talked to a guy one day, and he told me he could go somewhere else and probably double or triple his salary. And I'm like, what are you still doing here? Well, this is where I came up, and this is where I got my...
It's scary.
Yeah, but a company will fire you in a heartbeat. You're just a name and a number,
Some industries are brutal.
So I think there's times when you're in a spot, maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah, and it takes courage to do that. It absolutely takes courage. It is not easy, folks out there that are feeling that way, stuck in a marriage, stuck in a job, stuck in a financial distress. There really are different topics, but the emotions are really a lot the same, And to do something different, it definitely takes some chutzpah, some courage, some energy, some purpose, And so let's look at what exactly is a suck spot. Suck spot? That was a Freudian, I guess, right?
Well, it sucks being in a stuck spot.
Yes, it does, man. Because that's something I hear of a lot in therapy. A lot of our goals and a lot of our, the purpose of what I'm trying to do with people in a therapy session is, quote unquote, getting unstuck. little foreshadowing. I think that we're going to talk about family dynamics of addiction next time. I'm going to talk about the idea of frozen tears. I think that it was original to a lady named Claudia Black. Man, she's a lady that probably modeled a lot of what we're going to talk about next week with family dynamics and addiction, because she did a lot of groundbreaking work with families that are chemically dependent, dysfunctionally chemically dependent. Meaning, dysfunctional families, that's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but families that have a chemically dependent person, alcoholism, drug addiction of some sort or whatnot, I mean, they have seriously clear patterns that we're going to talk about next time. And from that material comes this concept of frozen tears. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before.
The first time I've ever heard that term.
Yeah, she really did a great job of helping us understand in her research and in her work with families that, when you've got that going on, addiction in a parent or a family member, man, you just learn very clearly that you got to deal with this issue and you got to get on to the next issue, because there's going to be a next issue. And it probably ain't that far down the road. Mm-hmm. Right? So what happens in that process, time after time after time again, you kind of learn, you get indoctrinated into an understanding that there ain't no time to deal with these tears. There ain't no time to deal with this issue. It's over. Move on. And, you hear people talk about that in today's day and age too, Oh, come on, man, move on. Don't wallow in your pity. Don't use excuses. That's kind of true. We need to move through things, but in moving through things, we have to be careful that we don't just store things and compartmentalize them so that we don't deal with them either. There's a really important balance there. Her concept of frozen tears helps us explain that stuff's just locked away.
Yeah.
Frozen. And creates seriously stuck spot feelings, because when you're not resolving stuff and you're not working through stuff, then you're just letting it stay in your system, which is very detrimental to anybody's mental health. So I definitely wanted to mention frozen tears. But from my perspective, honestly, and quote unquote, a stuck spot is defined as a horrible emotional place where emotions just sit inside of us. Like a metaphor of a skeleton in our closet. Right? Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. It's a very powerful, horrible state. Now, I guess you can have a stuck spot and stuff that's cool too. If I'm just thinking out loud, but usually we think of them as places we're stuck with that we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. It's very scary. It's very uncomfortable, and it's debilitating. It's almost like being frozen in step. You ever have something that just popped your awareness and made you afraid and scared for a minute? You freeze.
Mm-hmm.
You just freeze. Well, we overcome that. We overcome that as part of what I really work with people in a therapy to accomplish.
Okay.
Yep. So what creates them? What says you without looking at the notes, Mr. Man? What do you think? A little further on.
Maybe routine.
Let's start. Ooh, routine. That's
bad habits. Lack of knowledge.
Oh, man.
Or understanding, maybe.
Should have had you do this list.
Fear.
That's the first one we have in common.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good. So you got more than that? More than what I came up with?
Well, it's funny that the first thing I noticed as you brainstorm that is that those are, say a few of those again.
I think I said lack of understanding, lack of knowledge.
Lack of information, yeah.
Lack of information.
Those are... My list actually is more emotional.
I said bad habits.
Yeah, my list is more emotional.
Well, let's hear what you got.
And what I brainstormed, but yours is more like functional, maybe is the word, right? I have fear, insecurities, belief that if I start, I can't stop, lack of insight in our mental health, resentments, lack of social support, stress, thoughts of racing, so that, it's hard to express them, strong tendencies to shut down, such as we do with engulfment. I mean, so it's interesting, like you're looking at like functional pieces, and I'm looking at, I guess, kind of more of the emotional characteristics.
Yeah, well, I guess one of the things that interests me, and I hope we get into this, is like the coach training that I've had in the past. They say, what a person who's learning to become a coach would say is,
Yeah.
it's a therapist's job to deal with the past, and a coach's job to help you figure out a plan to move forward. So you said that you help people move forward in your therapy. So I'm interested.
Yeah.
I mean, I am interested to hear about that when we get there.
Yeah, we could do that a little bit of now, because honestly, 100% of the time now when I meet with somebody individually, what I say to them, part of my goal is, 'cause I don't agree with whoever said that, how is life like now? How do you want life to be like? And that's really where I'm spending time getting to. You know, I recognize that there's past events and things that do block us with some of these emotional setups. And so there's a feedback into the foundation of where things are now.
Well, I think maybe what that means is, if I've got a stuck spot, if I can't move forward in life because, my father was an alcoholic and used to beat me, and my mother, then that's something that the therapist needs to deal with. If I need to create a financial plan because I'm in debt, then I can help somebody out with that, and we wouldn't need to get a therapist involved. I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
There's a little difference there.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I see the idea a little better.
Right. So if I were coaching you in a coaching session, and you were having trouble with your finances, and we dug a little deeper, and it was some dramatic experience that had happened to you in the past, and that's why you couldn't. You
got a block there.
Then I'd say, hey, I need to let you get to my buddy Chris and figure this thing out. That's not really my area.
Yeah, I see that a little bit. I mean, because part of what we're trying to do is unlock stuff so that you can move forward for sure.
Right.
With new insight about yourself and new awareness and new emotional strength.
Right.
So that you power through whatever's there.
Yeah.
Get to where you want to be.
Right. And so I'm using finance as an example, but I know people who just don't like their jobs. And those folks don't necessarily need therapy. They just need somebody to teach them how to get a new job.
Kick them in the butt.
Whatever, yeah. Yeah, give them some motivation.
Coaches absolutely kick, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's look at this, I guess, real quick. Not spend too much time on what creates it, because we want to get to what getting out of it is. Fear, that's a powerful one. That was the one that we both landed on, I think, in combination. And man, fear is the freaking devil, man. It is something that just eats people up and definitely creates. It's funny that you could be in a comfort zone and still be fearful with what you're experiencing. I mean, it's enough said. Fear is just a powerful force that we need to fight and debilitate. Mm-hmm. What is it? There's nothing to fear but
fear itself.
Right? That is an amazing quote.
Was that Kennedy or FDR? Who was that?
I think that was Kennedy.
Okay.
And that was in the middle of the country's
Cold War and Cuban Missile Crisis and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, and fear mongering. We have a bunch of politics going on today. A lot of it is fear mongering, and it arrests development.
Yeah, that's a big problem today.
I'd love to hear what the music band Arrested Development would say about that. Just popped in my head. Remember that band?
I don't remember them.
Yeah, they had some good stuff out there.
I think I was a fan.
Arrested Development. So insecurities I had is another one. Both of us, we talked for different reasons through the issue of abandonment and engulfment as one of the biggest things there. Abandonment. Surely if I tell you what's going on with me and try to get unstuck, then you're going to leave me. Engulfment. If I tell you, then surely you're going to judge me and criticize me and control the crap out of me. I mean, I wrote here, the bottom line is there is a belief that you will surely use this weakness against me in some way if I deal with this. And so people just shut it down. We just avoid it. Right? So insecurities, not just those two, but insecurities are a very powerful locking force as well. We should have fun to rate these. Which one's the most? Listen to these and let's do that. Let's just play around with which one you think is the biggest one. Ones you brought up or ones I am. A belief that if I start, I cannot stop. I hear that with people. I particularly with trauma, that type of thing, man. People were like, dude, I don't want to start talking about this. It's going to upset me. And boy, once I start, I'm going to go down this road. I'm not going to be able to stop. Listen to this, guys. That is faulty logic, but also a powerful negative self-view. I mean, you are in control of yourself. There's nobody controlling you. Nobody can. You're not going to be destroyed by somebody or left by somebody, abandoned or made fun of, picked on, bullied, and whatever. You gotta give yourself, that's the courage, right? You got to give yourself a much better view that if you start, you're not even going to have control of yourself to stop. Nothing's that big. You just take it piece by piece. So anyway, that's a belief, I think, that creates a lot of stuck spots. Lack of insight into our mental health status or confusion otherwise. God bless you. He kindly turned off his mic, ladies and gentlemen. I had to point it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure they heard it anyway.
Probably so. But anyway, continue.
Yes.
Proceed.
Man, if you got depression or you got anxiety or you got a condition like we've talked about at the Tale of Two Tapes, man, that's going to block you up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true.
I mean, that's a body thing. That's a brain chemistry thing. And it bothers me to the core when people diminish the effect that when somebody has, an issue like that, they get blamed.
Right. Yeah.
That ain't right, people.
Yeah, those obviously, those kind of conditions are going to create some kind of stuck space, right? Or stuck
if you're
spot.
manic as a part of bipolar disorder and you continue with this crazy behavior, well, and you don't even know you're manic, well, how are you supposed to change that?
Right. Yep.
So ignorance, if you will, or a lack of insight is a better way of saying ignorance. Resentments I had on the list too. Boy, resentments. They will eat people alive and keep you in a anger state.
Dig into that some. Tell me why. Why would resentment keep me in a hole?
Well, they say in 12-step meetings a lot. I don't know if they originated, but they're very good in the rooms. Resentments hurt the person who holds and harbors it. It doesn't hurt the person who's resented. I mean, Craig, if I'm resentful of you, you've done something to me, and I can't, keyword, let it go, and I just stay angry with you and resentful, and I just spin on that guy, he didn't even carry a daggum couch when I needed him the most. He left me for the whole weekend, and then he didn't even check on me. He doesn't care. And I can spin that up. You went to a baseball game with your son.
Yeah.
So
if I'm that obsessed over a resentment, that doesn't sound normal to me. I mean, that sounds like a mental condition. I mean,
You know what, Craig? Honestly, buddy, I think that people hang on to their resentments a lot more than you would think. No, I don't even think that's abnormal, unfortunately. I mean, when you get hurt, I know of someone years ago continued to be angry over literally a high school stood up. They were stood up and just carried that out and stayed with them for a long time. Maybe still to this day, I don't know.
Like a date? Somebody got
stood up for a date and stayed resentful for, years later.
Really?
Yeah. Because it hurt. It really hurt. And they didn't really talk to him. They didn't really work it out. They just, left it alone and moved on. Mm-hmm. But things that hurt, things that sting, all you divorcees out there, hopefully you get through it and you feel better about your spouse. But there's some things like that you never really recover from.
Well, divorce is different. Divorce is a deep. I mean, you could have some deep wounds there, right? That you might need a therapist to get through some of that stuff.
Deep in the eyes of the person who's harboring resentments.
Yeah, I heard one time that it takes 5 years to get past a divorce. Is that true? Have you heard that?
I have not. To be honest with you. Yeah, I could believe it though.
Yeah.
I could believe it because there's so much involved in it. But when you're harmed in some way, professional athletes probably. I mean, dude, they build their career on. I remember that high school coach cut me, man. He relegated me to the JV squad.
That's kind of what I was going to say. It's almost like resentment would be used to push forward and to. That's what I would. Think that resentment would be used for as opposed to holding me back.
Those are rare people that use that for motivation to get better.
Well, I got stood up. I'm never going to ask another woman out.
Yeah.
Seriously, really?
Well, but I you can develop a lot of negative self-talk about, man, they stood me up. I'm sure I'm going to get stood up again. I suck. Who would want to date me? I'm unlovable.
I'm not. That's not funny. I'm sure there are people who think that.
You're fine. We probably need a comic at this point. Moving on, though. Did I get enough with resentments, though?
Yeah, I think so, man.
We're getting stuck a little bit in this, actually. Lack of social supports was another thing, being isolated, feeling alone. It's really hard to be courageous alone, people. I don't care who you are. You talk to anybody successful. I've listened to, the Investors Podcast does a lot of chronicling of success and successful business people. They ain't doing that stuff alone, guys.
No. You got to have a team. You got to have a team, right? Even Elon Musk has a team.
Absolutely, right?
Bright people who are
you like
pushing
the SEALs,
his vision
man. There ain't no SEAL going into battle alone, I'll tell you that.
Well, they call themselves the teams. I mean, they
right?
They know that.
Yeah, so that's a big danger spot to create suck spots, being alone. Stress, too much hitting at once, thus shutting down. I can relate to that the last few weeks. Whew. Thoughts racing, thus hard to express them, and strong tendencies to shut down in just normal everyday tendencies. Putting walls up and shutting down tends to really, suffocate you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think is the biggest one there? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just kind of curious.
I think fear is probably the biggest one. People are afraid. A lot of people who they're afraid to change jobs, or afraid to, if they're lonely, they're afraid to ask somebody out, afraid of rejection. I think fear is probably the biggest thing in most people's lives in general.
Brilliant minds think alike, right? That was the one that we both had on our
I would say so. I would say so.
Fear sucks.
Yeah,
it's really debilitating. We probably ought to do a whole show on fear, actually, because that has so many faces.
So what about like bad habits, man? I brought that up earlier. So if you get stuck in, I think the whole of our lives boil down to small decisions or small habits that we make on a day-to-day basis. If I have a habit of eating sweet food, then eventually I'm going to probably be overweight and, have health issues. So how do you think habits play into getting stuck, man?
It's interesting. Yeah, habitual tendencies, I'm not talking about addiction, habitual use of, alcohol or drugs or spending. I think, didn't we do a show on that where, we was looking at what was that? My mind's kind of going blank. My mind just went blank on that. But I think we did a show. I mean, there were
was it the one on decisions? We did a show on decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And habitual tendencies with that, I think you're right. Trust your gut or trust your use your head.
Yeah.
And that really, habits seem to me to be forming from emotional foundations. I'll admit that I'm a little confused with habitual tendencies. You look at the tale of two tapes, and there's biological components and social and emotional components that I talk about. Where do habits come from? I mean, do they come from biological? Maybe. Do they come from experiences that you've had where things get locked down? Maybe you learn how things are done. There's a lot of social learning in that. I think it's a bit complicated. It's probably, a bit of a tale of both. Some people have anxiety, and it completely creates compulsivity. I mean, hell, OCD is all about, somewhat habitual behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's you got to get under habits, I think, is maybe my main point to answer your question, to get at what's really going on. My question would be, what created that habit?
Okay.
And sometimes it's going to be straight biological.
Okay.
And if you miss that and you try
when you say biological, you mean like inherited, hereditary kind of things, genetics? What are you talking about when you say biological?
Meaning, like the OCD thing. I just read the paper every Saturday morning, and I can't do much till I read the paper. Got to read the paper. If I don't read the paper, bad day's not going to be right. Well, why is that such a strong habit? I don't know. I just have to read the paper.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do that. Well, I mean, no, you don't.
Yeah. You don't have to, no, but maybe it is.
There's some real biological drives that go into that sometimes.
Right.
And we need to understand that and deal with that. What What does it feel like to be stuck? I think I'm just going to leave that alone. You know, some podcasts, they do this. And now a moment for our sponsor. When we don't have one lined up, and then you cut out, and you're like, dead air. And then you cut back. I think I just did that. Does that qualify as a break?
I don't know. We can take a break if you need to.
And moment break for our sponsor, which we don't have this week. Well,
we still have the link. We have a link on our website to Whole Family Products. If you click on that link, you can find 126 different health supplements.
Good stuff.
There's CBD oils there. There's CBD creams. We did a show on CBD. There's anti-aging. There's hormone creams. There's all kind of good nutritional supplements. And if you click the link on our website, go there and purchase. Then Through a Therapist Eyes gets a commission, an affiliate, if you will. And so check that out on our website, throughatherapisteyes.com.
Isn't it husbands that do like protein and workout stuff too? I mean, that's a big seller.
There's some nutritional supplements on there like that. Yes, indeed. Help out the show, folks.
And now back to the show. What does it feel like to be stuck, man? I'm not going to spend much time on that. I looked at helplessness and hopelessness, anger and resentments. You know, they go on and on and on. You know, really, anxiety and depression. There are biological markers and factors with this kind of stuff, but honestly, the idea of stuck spots generally, I do kind of feel like land a lot more on the social and emotional side of the Tale of Two Tapes. And that is a lean that I have. Okay, so, which is good news because we can really unwind that, you know, and get into a better place, get into a different place where we can get out of that.
All right, man. So we've talked about what it means to be stuck, why folks get stuck, how it feels to get stuck. So the $1 million question is, how do I get unstuck?
I know, right?
Yeah. So how do folks get unstuck, man?
Let's launch, you know, because there really are, it's important to feel empowered. I mean, I think, first of all, you really, really got to know that you can. I mean, people get so debilitated with faulty beliefs or faulty thoughts like, I hate the word I can't. That's a terrible word. It locks you down into, I can't, there's nothing to be done to get out of this. If you spend very much time on that type of a cycle thought, and you believe that this is just going to be what life is, this is just what I'm relegated to, you know, those types of very powerful thinking errors, we have got to have some insight that I am actually empowered to make a change. You know, I think that's, having insight about that, I feel like in this moment is one of the biggest things that you can really develop. You've got to defeat the evil, negative, destructive, powerful thoughts and beliefs that are completely lies.
Okay. So what I think I hear you saying is you got to change your mindset.
As a big part of, yes.
Yeah. I think it was Henry Ford, right? Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
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 So you got to change your mindset. So if you feel like you're stuck, you have to realize that you can make some decisions to get unstuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we're on from there. And that's not where it ends. But I do believe that is where it starts.
Okay.
You know, I just had some conversation with someone recently about the horrible challenges they're having with addiction. And, you know, they just, you know, people that are in the addictions field understand, you know, you meet with somebody and they're like, man, I mean, they're in tears and they're looking at you with desperate eyes and say, you know, Chris, you don't know how many times I've gotten sober and I've relapsed. I mean, you don't understand. I mean, I have been sober from this horrible thing of addiction and I've relapsed over 50 times this year. I mean, it just,
50 times.
Well, I made up a number, but right. I fall off the wagon so many times. I've been sober for 3 years once, and I fell back into drinking, you know, and they really begin to develop over time. I can't. Done.
Mm-hmm.
So changing a mindset is a big piece. Yes.
Okay. So we talk about mindset change. What else? What are some other things I can do? I think that's first off, you got to change your mindset. That's the foundation, right? Because if you don't believe in yourself or believe that you can do something, you're not going to be able to do it no matter what else we talk about.
Right. So I have a very, I think, cool reframe that I don't know why this popped into my head, but it's probably about 2, 3, 4 years ago. 100% of the time now when I hear this, I go to this reframed statement. Okay. See if you've heard this phrase before. Craig, you just asked me a question. I don't, that's, boy, I don't really know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. You ever hear anybody say that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
That's a stuck spot. Okay. A few years ago, that absolutely got reframed in my mind. You know, I don't know how I feel about that. I have nothing to say about that. Any or all sorts of types of those types of statements. You know what any of those variations mean to me now?
What's that?
I don't know how I think about that. To me means I don't want to say what I'm thinking. That's just a reframe that occurs to me, and I think it's almost 100% of the time accurate. You know, if you don't know how you feel about something, I think what it is you don't really feel comfortable saying, maybe even to yourself, what you're thinking. Matter of fact, here's pulling shows together, right? Remember how I thought a lot about Dr. Ted Spickler's talk with us. Dr. Spickler really, that was so cool, and I've applied it in my brain so many ways. Tacitly, your brain knows exactly what's going on. I mean, it knows exactly what's happening. And at all times, it's kind of working things out and working through things in a dynamic way. And sometimes you even fool yourself. You don't feel comfortable telling yourself what you're thinking about a thing.
Yeah.
We have that stuff installed and hardwired in our neurochemistry system, I believe. In our subconscious.
Yeah. Subconscious mind's a powerful thing.
It's a confusing little thing too.
Yeah. I read an article one time about this game they were teaching folks, and I forget how they came to this conclusion, but people actually figured out the game, it was some kind of card game.
Yeah.
On a subconscious level before they realized they had figured it out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there's lots of stuff going on there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he was talking about with tacitly learning about something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's what that means to me. I mean, you know, when somebody says, I don't know what to say, I don't know what I'm thinking about that. And I then kind of jump into a state of kind of thinking and help them understand. I think that's partly, you know, what's going on. You're not comfortable saying to me, you're not comfortable talking about what it is that you're thinking. So let's really kind of take a dive into what are you really thinking with that. And you'll be surprised that helps people, you know, to kind of, okay, well, gee, it really is safe. I really, you know, if you can get a relationship, by the way, like, you know, with your spouse, if you can get to a place where you can say anything that you're really thinking on your mind, boy, what a powerful and elusive space that is to be in with somebody, which is, by the way, what helps therapy work best, right? You can say anything you want to say, anything you're thinking that's on your mind. It doesn't go anywhere, and it's safe to do so.
To the therapist,
to the
right?
therapist.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm saying if you can get that way to your spouse, if you can get that way with a buddy,
yeah,
you know, that's a
vulnerability city, right?
Oh boy.
But go back to the thing, man. So we said mindset change. So what else? I mean, if I decide I can make a change, what do I do next?
So challenge what you're thinking.
Okay.
Right. You know, that's the idea that we're talking about now. You know, to borrow from a phrase that y'all have heard, you know, it kind of plays off of this, you know, say and examine what you're thinking. I'm sure you've heard this one, tear the Band-Aid off, right?
I don't think I have.
Yes, you have. Oh, come on. Yes, you have. Somebody says, you know, hey, you just got to tear the Band-Aid off and let the wound heal.
Yeah.
Never heard that expression?
No, I never heard that. No.
Holy crap. Yeah, well, it's a phrase. I think many have used it. Tear the Band-Aid off the wound. And to a certain extent, this is true. You know, you can maybe say reveal what it is that is wound, what it is that's stuck. You have to reveal it. People do not like to tear that off and expose it. They'll just say, I'm fine. Nothing wrong here. Nothing going on. Okay, you're fine. That's good. Well, why are you doing the same thing over and over again? And people just don't want to look at that kind of stuff. So tearing the Band-Aid off means, to me, you got to reveal. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, like I said with the second one there, I mean, it's revealing it to yourself. But
I think maybe I'm making notes as we go. Mm-hmm. So 1 and 2 are kind of the same thing, in my opinion, right? Because I'm making a mindset change. I have to really challenge what I'm thinking in order to make a mindset change, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so if I say, hey, I'm stuck in this dead-end job, or, man, I'm overwhelmed with all this debt, well, I can change this. I've already challenged my initial thoughts by saying that, right? I'm changing my mind. Is that a fair assessment? Those are kind of one and the same, maybe.
Is it really changing it, though? I think feeling empowered, being able to be open with what it is that you're thinking, and letting people know what your thoughts are. I guess I'm saying changing your mindset. What does that really mean? How deep does that really go?
I think it's got to go deep, in my opinion.
If to be a sustaining change, yes.
Yeah.
But how do we know that that's really happening?
That's a good point too. I think what you're saying though about telling people is also a slippery slope.
How so?
Well, you might say, "Hey, man, I'm tired of being in this job. I'm gonna go start my own little gig on the side, and I'm gonna grow that thing until it's big enough to quit." And your buddy says, "What are you, nuts? You got great benefits. You're getting paid, And then you start, well, maybe he's right. Maybe my dream is stupid. Maybe I shouldn't do this, And you're stuck again, and you're back in the same old rut. So I think you got to be careful. I think it's the right thing to do to tell people what you're thinking. But on the other hand, you got to be careful, man, of those skeptics out there who just pull you right back down into the pit with them.
Well, they do exist. But I think that honestly, that goes up to what creates a stuck spot. One of the things I was thinking about with insecurities, people are going to use this against me. Misery likes company, and they'll drag me back down and whatnot. But I'm thinking that that's a faulty.
But if you buy into what they're saying, then you're still stuck.
This is true.
You don't take any chances.
This is true, but I think honestly, when you share what you intend to do with people, I think particularly when you're in a trusting relationship with friendship with somebody, they're going to be your cheerleader.
I think most people. I think some people will.
They're going to be your
but
cheerleader.
I think a lot of people.
So we're not talking about those just blasted everywhere, because you're always going to get critics.
You are.
We have critics on this show, I'm sure. People are like, they're full of crap. They don't know what they're talking about.
We had Dan Miller on the show, and he tells the same kind of stories. And he talks about these, I think it's in Hawaii, but there's these black crabs that run on the beach. And if you get a bucket and you start collecting those crabs in the bucket, one of those crabs will figure out, hey, wait a minute, this isn't good,
Right.
I'm going to end up on somebody's stove getting boiled. Mm-hmm. So he'll try to start climbing out of the bucket. Mm-hmm. Well, when the other guys see him climbing out, they're like, hey, where's he going? And they'll start pulling him back down into the bucket with them.
Yeah, I remember that.
So there are people out there, man, who if you make statements about getting unstuck, they're going to pull you right back down in there with them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely truth to that, particularly in entrepreneurial type circumstances, people that are afraid and don't want other people to jump out and take a risk, because then they feel almost like they're being left behind.
Yeah, I think you got to tell people.
Yeah.
I think you do. And I think that it's good, because some people may see risks that you don't see, or tell you things you can look out for. Exactly. Like the group we meet with on Tuesday mornings at 8. Those guys would say, that's a great idea, but have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Well, they might say it's a terrible idea, but they aren't going to automatically say, what are you, nuts?
Yeah,
you
and that's
never
where I was
do
getting,
that.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was getting to. Like, we're not talking about listening to just the general public or people that you don't know and you don't have trust and you haven't worked with.
But be careful, because some people will. Your best buddy may say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It's a good word of caution.
Don't do that.
And that's it. Maybe my retort then is more so pointedly towards use multiple sources. Because if you hear 4 people telling you, dude, you're cracked, don't do that. you probably ought to listen.
Well, you should listen.
Because you're not going to have 4 people telling you with an idea that's a really good idea.
But you might. Depends on who your friends are, man.
Well,
you know, they say you're the equivalent of the 5 folks you hang out with.
Hey, man, I'm one of your
so
friends.
So your 5 closest friends are probably stuck too. And when you tell them you're going to get unstuck, they don't want you to get unstuck, man.
Yeah.
They love you, man. They like drinking beer with you at the bar. They don't want you out working on your own business or, you know.
Yeah, safety comes before all else is something that I wanted to point out in getting unstuck. And I think that what I'm thinking there is in getting unstuck, you don't just recklessly move forward, maybe even in an entrepreneurial way like you're talking about there, Craig. You know, you got a business idea. You don't want to just recklessly, impulsively go make decisions. You want to make sure that safety is in place in addition to challenging yourself to get uncomfortable.
No, I think you're 100% right. And if you remember my example a few minutes ago, I said start something on the side and keep building it until it built up enough where you could make a jump. So I'm not advocating just throwing in the throwing all your chips on the table and
I'm playing World Series of Poker on my phone right now, and I look for those guys that absolutely just throw the big bets down. They ain't got anything, man. I made so much money, make believe money, guys, on that game with those kind of people.
Yeah,
it's stupid.
I read a book called Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins, and he interviewed the biggest investors in the world, and just about every single one of them said that one of the things that they put at the top of their list is protecting the downside. So if they do lose, it ain't much.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Counter. Anybody who's an investor knows, you do shorts just as much as, betting on companies to succeed. Boy, I need to move fast. I'm aware of the time here, and there's more things I wanted to cover. So safety before all else means that you kind of do this in a balanced way. I was going to talk a little bit about...
Are we still on the topic of being unstuck?
Yeah. Safety is a part of that so that you don't just... And I was going to use the example of trauma and trauma work and rules that I have for trauma work. And I think I'm going to skip that because the idea is just being able to... I'll just say have a balanced approach so that you aren't getting into too much over your head. And I was going to talk about that, but we'll deal with trauma rules. Actually, I think when we talked about trauma, I might have put those out there. Little thing that I have in my office. Here's a little for anybody who's listening. Everybody's been in my office. You can look for it. I call it the Tomb of the Unknown, Craig. Okay. The Tomb of the Unknown is this cool little thing that a colleague of mine, Jomana. Hey, Jomana. I hadn't talked to you in a little while. I hope you're well. A little shout out to her. She brought me back from Syria, her homeland. She brought me back this little, I don't know what it's probably. It's probably like a spice thing. It's got like three little legs, and it's got like Syrian
interesting
stuff on
I'd
it.
love to see
really
that.
Neat. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I like stuff from different cultures. And that's interesting.
Well, I propositioned it for a purpose that I created years ago when she gave it to me, called the Tomb of the Unknown. And this is something that you write down. Something that's bothering you, something that you're thinking, and you write it down, and then you just leave it at my office, and I let you place it into the Tomb of the Unknown, and it just stays in there. And when we close it, nobody knows that it's even there. But that little ritual, that cool little tool, is doing the activity of leaving something behind. So getting unstuck, there's a lot of power in rituals.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they'll leave that piece of paper there, and for whatever reason, because they took that action and they placed it in there, and they know they can leave it there, and they leave the session and they go back home, that can have the effect through that ritual,
I've heard of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've heard of these things?
Rituals.
Yeah.
Not your specific one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like lighting something on fire. They can, if you got a negative thing going on, you write it down and you burn it. Balloons, I've never heard that one. That's
pop it in a balloon, put some helium in it or whatever, tie it to a balloon, float it away.
Let her go.
Let her go.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
I like it, man.
Message in a bottle.
It's kind of woo a little bit. I like that woo stuff.
The woo, you do. Craig likes the woo stuff. Let me see. Trust. The confidence that trust creates to be more vulnerable. getting unstuck requires developing trust. How do you develop trust, you might say? You start small, you build bigger in revealing things and talking about things and have confidence. You ask somebody to commit to something small, they continue it, and then you ask for something bigger and you kind of move towards. Think of the dating process. You don't trust very much at the beginning. Hopefully by the time you're married, you got a higher level of trust. So you want to build trust as a way of getting unstuck.
I got some things I wrote down here, just taking notes if you want to hear what I think.
One more, I was thinking about how I wanted to present this, and then we'll go to that. Kind of a therapy rule that I've heard long ago for you therapists listening. A rule of thumb. Sometimes therapists will feel stuck in sessions, honestly. We're like, where are we going? What are we doing? What are we trying to get to? We have those kind of thoughts. Add or subtract numbers in a therapy session. That was something that I've heard as a green, very young therapist, and I love the idea. So the idea is if I'm working with a couple, maybe I want to subtract and work individually. Or maybe I want to add a kid to the therapy session. Or, you're right. So you add or subtract, as a general rule to get you unstuck, honestly, as a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
But it leads me to the idea of, in your life, when something's going on and you're feeling stuck with something, add something new, right? Or something that's kind of always been there, take it away. So you add or subtract as a way to get unstuck.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Or some of the things you're thinking, taking notes?
Yeah. You want to hear them, or you still got some stuff?
No, go ahead. Yeah,
I think most of it lines up with what you're saying, kind of. But I wrote down the mindset change being the first, and then you said challenge what you're thinking. I like that, and I kind of maybe circled those two because I think there's lots of similarities. But I think once you figure out that you are stuck, then educating yourself on your options is a good idea, right?
So education, information.
Yeah. Yep. If I'm stuck with my finances or my job or my health or whatever, I think it's good to find out what the options are there, Maybe
just to comment on that a little bit, more recently in my work with people, I'm really developing I probably need to slap a fancy name on it or something, but I see the power of insight in working with things, whether it's becoming insightful that you have ADD and really knowing that, and then getting information about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. When you develop insight and you get information, you can really be empowered.
Yeah, I think so too. And then get help. We talked about support groups or coaches or therapists. We created a mastermind groups. We got guys we meet with on Tuesday and that we talk about issues with. So, get some help, and having that accountability in those kind of groups or working one-on-one with a therapist or a coach. I mean, that's gonna help you get to the places you want to go. So there's just some notes I made about how to get unstuck.
I think I'm going to go and add to our list through. I'm going to skip some of the other stuff that I had in prep.
What's your next thing on your notes, man? I want to go a little bit deeper on something with you if I can.
Okay. Well, let's go there.
How do I? Excuse me. How do I know if I need a therapist or some kind of coach, man? I mean, have you ever had anybody come into your office and you say, you don't need me, you need a coach?
It's as far as differentiating between a coach and a therapist,
right?
I don't want to spend too much time on that yet. Let's actually mark down a show on that.
Okay, but just hit a highlight or two if you want.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think we talked about that earlier a little bit. How to differentiate between a coach and a therapist. I guess, you're kind of catching me cold with it, Craig. I do that to you. You don't do that to me.
Touche, my friend. Touche, brother.
I don't know exactly how to differentiate it in total. I mean, I think that, in the therapy world, we diagnose, we deal with mental health conditions. And in doing that diagnosis, there's probably going to be a little bit more awareness from a medical perspective. Whereas, as you, I think, helped me a little bit ago, coaching is going to be more of a partner. I mean, I think of a workout coach, somebody that's going to really help me with motivation. It's going to kind of be there, with me in the journey and kind of validating experience and whatnot. You know, I mean, therapists do that too. You know, so maybe a big differentiation is just the biological aspects of diagnosing.
Yeah.
You know,
Gotcha.
Is that
I think that maybe helps a little bit. We can do a whole show on it. You go a little deeper, but you know, the program that I'm in, that I kind of talked about it a little bit previously. They're quick to say, hey, you're not a therapist, and if somebody needs one, get them to one. You know, and so I think that's a good thing. Another thing I was going to say too about therapy and therapists in general. One of the mountains that we develop in the program is the emotional mountain, and one of the things that Mark Devine, retired Navy SEAL commander, talks about is therapy. He's all about it. You know, here's a Navy SEAL honor man in his Buds platoon who's advocating therapy. So all you guys out there who think therapy's for wimps, you might want to change your mindset. But anyway, he says that if we called it emotional coaches, people might be more likely to go see a therapist as opposed to calling them therapists. But
interesting. If therapists were renamed, not counselors, not therapists, but emotional coaches.
Yeah, because guys, I don't know a therapist. Guys, they're tough and they don't need therapy.
That's funny. Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking about doing, because I don't really have a need for a therapist at this moment in my life, but I was talking to my swim buddy about this, and he's like, it might be a good idea to establish a relationship with one. So maybe give them a little background, whatever. And then when you need a therapist, you got somebody to go to.
Well, I've actually got some weird ideas about that. Yeah, I've honestly developed, and I think I'm thoughtful about the future and where our field is going because I care about mental health and substance abuse services and whatnot. And I really feel like we'll be moving into a direction where you have a relationship as a general idea for health, like you have a relationship with your primary care physician. You don't really need to go see them right now, but you go do checkups and you go do fitness with them, and hopefully the way medicine's really designed to be practiced is you develop a relationship with that doctor who kind of guides you through life course.
That's awesome. I like that. So you're right on board with what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Absolutely, man. I really, it, as a matter of fact, I mean, I don't criticize it per se. I just say it's not my tendency, to do like solution focused oriented things. I think it's a little bit of a scam that we've gotten into by insurance companies.
Yeah.
They don't want to pay for the dollars for services and whatnot. So let's do a short term thing.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Yeah.
Let me give you the idea of what you need to do in 12 sessions and we'll fix it and you'll be done.
Yeah.
That has its place. EAP is a short-term focus. Has its place. Please don't send me hate mail. But I think that there's a lot more emotional development in the lines of what we're talking about.
Right. I had kind of an experience like that when my wife and ex-wife got divorced. I went to a counselor that she and I had seen together before. And just talked through some things with him. I don't know. I went 4 or 5 times, maybe a couple more. But I remember the last time I spoke with him, and now he's retired, so I hate that because he was awesome.
Yeah, we lost a good one, buddy.
But I remember at the end he said, "Well, hey, Craig, I think things are going good for you. If you need something in the future, you give me a call." And that's kind of how we left it, know. And I thought that was very interesting that the relationship that not ended, but it was almost like, well, you're good for now. When you need something, let me know.
He has that mentality, yeah. I can tell you.
I thought that was an awesome thing, man.
I trained under him for a little bit
years
ago. Yeah, and it is.
Yeah.
It's always. I think a good marking is that it is an open door. It's not something that needs to necessarily close.
Yeah, unfortunately, his is closed.
Yeah, well, yeah. Age catches up with us, man. Love you, Jeff. Wow. Let me shoot through super quick. I know we need to end. I had it under a category of how do we prevent being stuck, but it probably connects with this category of how do we get unstuck. So preventing / getting unstuck is the same. So just to read through it, because I don't know if we'll get back to it in future shows. Make friendships and develop deeper friendships. We actually covered that in a whole show years ago. Listen to me, Craig. Years ago, we covered that in a show. Develop a better ability to trust people. So trust, I mentioned, in getting unstuck, purposefully developing your ability to trust people. That can be purposefully developed, believe it or not. Realize a relationship rule. Share on the level that you want to be in relationship to. Like, if you're an employee and a subordinate, you don't share a whole lot, right? So you want to share to the level you want that relationship to be. So you choose that. Getting unstuck is finding those people that you want to be that close to. And oh, by the way, the danger of an affair is that you don't intend to be that way. You start sharing and you get that way. You know, I think we did a show on that. In fact, we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
So the relationship rule. Practice vulnerability. Share small things so that when big things come around, you're ready to, to go with that again. You kind of just said that with the therapy thing. Good old emotion management, I wrote. All the things we talk about, managing your emotion helps you to get unstuck because it's not so overwhelming. You got to manage your emotion so you're not overwhelmed and getting stuck in that overwhelmment. And then I wrote, highlight the order of priority. God, self, then others. If the priority of self is there, then energy to help self and prevent self from getting stuck almost happens automatically. Right? So God, self, God, if that's in the picture for you. If it's not, then the idea is you've got to have energy for yourself. If you're giving it all away, you can't. You're going to get yourself unstuck. You're dead in the water. You're a dead stick.
Mm-hmm.
Up the creek without a paddle.
That's right.
How do you review all this? Let's get us out of here.
That's a lot.
Yeah, this was a good one. It's good to be back. I think this is a neat show. And like I said, this was kind of in show notes in the format. I had to leave a little bit out. I wanted to talk a little bit about how to help a friend or a loved one who expressed they're stuck. But it really kind of goes along this sort of whole second half of the show is, I'm glad we spent a good bit of time on how do you get unstuck? We got a decent list for that. You think we covered that?
Yeah, I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, I made these notes. I don't remember all the things that you said, so I don't want to try to summarize and leave some of that out. But change your mindset, educate yourself, challenge your thinking, get some help in whatever format that may be.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things you want to add to that?
Tearing the Band-Aid off, doing a reveal, building and developing trust, managing emotion first so that you don't get overwhelmed with stuff as it comes, dealing with frozen tears, doing a ritual, letting doing the tomb of the unknown or a balloon or something along those lines.
Yeah. And I think that the first step's the most important one, obviously, is changing your mindset. Like we said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Right. It's empowering to know I have options. And guys, for people listening out there for weeks and months and years to come that might hear this, listen, you can't get to a place. It's I would argue impossible to get to a place where you can legitimately say, I have tried everything to deal with this. I just don't think it's possible. Do you know how many emotion management skills there are? And when you use those in combination, how many combinations there are of all those things? I mean, yoga. We talked about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
A minute ago in the shows. I mean, you cannot get to a place where you've tried everything. That's a lie.
Yeah. And wherever you're at, there's somebody who's been there before who has now moved on from that. And they aren't too difficult to find. I mean,
words of wisdom from the man, the myth, Craig.
I mean, it's a true story, right? I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Somebody else has been there before. Somebody else is there now, but somebody else has been there before and they've made it out. And you can too.
Sounds like coach material, brother.
Hey.
Take us out of here, man. I'll tell you where we're going next.
I've been saying this for 60-some episodes now.
Oh, God.
I feel like a broken record.
Really?
ThroughATherapistEyes.com.
Yeah. You want to get a pretty girl voice for it or something?
That'd be awesome. Links to social media on our website, entries for every show. We have an email list. We would love it if you would tell your friends and give us a 5-star review and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. What's next, man?
We are going to talk about family dynamics with addiction.
Okay.
Jump into that.
Sounds interesting.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.